That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, I just sent you an email. I'm guessing you didn't get it in time. I wanted to start with the story for people who might have heard it on the news just a few moments ago. The decision, it would seem, by Quebec, according to Francois Legault's comments today, that they will appeal that Bill 40 ruling that they lost in Superior Court. And I'm just wondering your reaction to that. I know we're not supposed to be surprised. I know we talked about it at the time and expected it to happen. But I was kind of hoping in my heart of hearts that, maybe, just maybe, the government would say, okay, we'll go with the court's decision. But of course, I was silly to think that. So, yeah.
What I like about your email, you guys hearing me okay by the way?
Yeah, a little hollow, but yeah.
Oh, well, thanks a lot.
Not your words.
No, just the sound, Jim, not you.
What I like about your email, guys, is or Aaron specifically, is your second sentence is a missed opportunity to show some humility.
Okay, that was between you and me.
We're talking about Francois Legault, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's kind of funny because Francois Legault has made his political career in confrontation and crisis. He was a PQ cabinet minister. When he became premier, suddenly everything, Quebec was under attack by everyone and everything. So here we have the wind-up for the CAQ caucus meeting, pre-session caucus meeting. And it hasn't been great. There's been a lot of stuff in the news this week, all kinds of crises coming. What does Francois Legault come out with? Well, he comes out with some crises of his own that, of course, he is going to have to confront, and of course, he'll need the solidarity of all Quebecers to deal with it. Yes, Bill 40, I'm not surprised. And I found it interesting because I was listening to Jason's report, and he said, well, they'll be explaining why they're going to appeal it in the hours or perhaps days to come, or perhaps weeks to come or months to come. Listen, they can't let this drop because even though they got blown out of the water, even though the notwithstanding clause does not help here, and even though they know perfectly well, unless there's a major error of law, and no one seems to have mentioned that, the Supreme Court will uphold this, and these guys are going to look like clowns. And where does Francois Legault end up finding the justification for this appeal? Is it about the quality of education? Is it about the ability to finally get Quebec out of the third world when it comes to the level of the quality of education, not because of the teachers, but because of this overbearing, bloated system? He says, well, no, because, not that many people vote in school elections. This is the same garbage he peddled back in 2018, and he hasn't found a new script yet. So that's the first confrontation Francois Legault is going to hide behind. The second, of course, and I think it's indeed even more serious, he had been setting the table for the past few weeks, painting the unions as evil barbarians who are going to destroy Quebec society. And now he ends his caucus meeting by saying, I don't know, I think we're going to have strikes by the end of this month in education and in health. They want everything. We can't give them this. They're asking for all kinds of stuff that we simply can't give. Now, Francois Legault can plead poor all he wants. He's been handing out $500 million, more than $500 million, almost $500 million to foreign investors to come to Quebec, and somehow there isn't enough money to keep this province afloat in terms of the service that it provides. But what I really like is that I feel that this week, and I think this is what scared the bejesus out of Francois Legault, is that the resumption of the fall of size of the Montreal courthouse, which is a big sort of shindig. Everyone gets together. They put on their judges' robes with the red front there, and everything looks very traditional and cool. You would have the chief justices of Quebec Court and Superior Court saying, we're not sure the system is going to hold together. And I got to tell you guys, having covered these events over the years, this is absolutely unprecedented. I know we've sort of mentioned, obviously we talked about health and education, and sometimes we touch upon the justice system. I don't know, David Hartel, who's going to be on later, I know he has discussed this with me at length on air, but the thing is, they hit the trifecta. Health, education, and justice are falling apart. They are not working. The best this government can do is perhaps find some, like Christian Dubé in the health department, we're going to create an agency that's going to do all the heavy lifting and this and that. We are in a crisis not because the system doesn't work. We're in a crisis because the people in charge don't know what they're doing. As I've said in the past, they're doing whatever they want.
Okay. Yeah. I will point out, Jim, that this perfect trifecta, as you lay it out, justice, health, and education, This ought to provide enough fodder for the opposition to really go to town. Am I expecting too much?
No, you're not expecting too much, and indeed, I would have expected by now to have at least seen something online from one of the opposition parties. I suspect they'll get around to it. Maybe they don't want to fire off too much ammunition on a Friday afternoon, but I really think it's important to let our listeners know that even though we have felt targeted in the Anglo community by this government, okay, all of a sudden, Francois Legault's political shooting range just got a lot broader. He's going to go after unions. He's going to go, or through his surrogate, Simon-Jean Barrette, the justice minister, he's been blaming judges. The justice minister of Quebec is blaming judges for not sitting long enough hours for cases that fall through, even though that is demonstrably false, okay? In other words, and I cannot stress this enough, if they don't have an explanation or an excuse, they will make one up and blame someone else, point the finger at someone else. And we had mentioned this earlier in the week. I had the feeling that all of a sudden, a lot of pieces in the political puzzle were suddenly clicking into place around Francois Legault, around the CAQ, around their completely hot air-filled smokescreen of governance. And now it's all coming home to roost. And of course, Francois Legault's only reply to that is, create a crisis, it's us against them. It won't be our fault. Yeah. If you have any inconveniences, you can blame the unions. It won't be our fault if you have any legal problems, blame the judges. It won't be our fault if your kids are coming back not necessarily as educated as they should be, blame the teachers, oh yes, and blame the unions, because they're making it hard for us to hire more teachers, which is rubbish. All that is forming a perfect populist storm for Francois Legault and company. Get ready to have to deal with it over the course of this winter. But you're quite right, Aaron, to suggest this is a tremendous opportunity for the opposition to really, make their bones on this and show what they've got. Because if they don't, we're going to be stuck in this Groundhog Day where 40% of Quebecers will be dictating how they learn, how they get treated medically, and what kind of justice they can receive to the rest of them. And as far as I'm concerned, that's not just unacceptable, it's downright dangerous.
It's incomprehensible to me how none of this has consequences for this government. I don't understand, like we've discussed multiple times about the Teflon effect that Francois Legault seems to have.
But it's not that difficult. It's simple math ranking. I don't know if you guys saw this poll that they ran in Le Soleil today. It was a Somme poll conducted by Le Soleil, about 1,100 respondents. And the big headline is like 59% of Quebecers say they're not satisfied with the Legault government. And like, okay, that's fine. Here's the problem. They don't need 59% of Quebecers. The other 40% keep voting for them over and over again. So they don't have to give a damn about that. But the problem is most of that 60% live in Montreal. Most of that 60% live in Quebec City. And if there's one thing we should see changed in this province, for better or for worse, because this could be opening the door to fringe parties or the PQ, we've got to stop the first past the post system here. We're seeing the effects. They are devastating for this province. And quite frankly, though, I don't know who's going to support it, but the people who are getting a short end of this system are you, me, and our listeners.
Ain't that the truth? And I got to tell you, I blame the Liberals to some degree because, as Aaron pointed out, where is the opposition on this? The Liberals simply aren't doing their job either.
Well, right now, it's kind of like, when we talk about the Quebec Liberals, I have a vision of an empty office with a full voice box.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what I mean? And maybe the papers sort of being blown by the breeze to the middle of it. But yeah, they need a leader, and they can't keep jerking around here saying, well, we'll get together, down the road. No. You need one yesterday. That's the only way this is going to change.
Agreed.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, have a good weekend. Thank you.
You too, guys.